We are live back with another episode of your wildest fantasy football show.
Oh, yeah.
Friday edition. Had a big game, wild game, almost like a college football game last night. Big 12 college football game with all the points that were scored. We have some updates on the Odell Beckham situation. I don't have to dress up or pay for Cody's parlay after the Colts won yesterday. Just a good, feel-good Friday from wherever I am, and Cody's home.
Right. I am home. Hello, home.
So I went to this place to get away, to feel the peace of being in the middle of nowhere, being in a house that's not necessarily mine, in the middle of nowhere. I don't know if you can hear whatever's going on in the back. These people, are we good? No
Can't hear 'em.
chainsaws?
I got chainsaws, axes. I think it's a whole,
It did end
like a-
after
it's like a
Halloween,
kins-
though.
No, not really. It's like a quinceañera, I guess, or something.
It's gotten less.
It's got less tool loud and just more vocally loud. So, it is what it is. Someday
But
I'll be famous, but until then I have to deal with neighbors.
These people knocked on the door at like 8 in the morning and said, "We have to have you move your car." And I don't know who they are. So I said, "Yes, sir." And moved my car because, again, I didn't want to stir up any trouble. Who knows if I'm even supposed to be here in the first place. Had to deal with that this morning. Really threw me off my groove. I feel like people are starting to close in on me, and it may be best for me to go back to my own property sooner than later. So let's try to finish up this show quick, move on, get ready for the weekend. Starting with,
Of course.
do we want to start with the game last night, or do we want to start with the news out of Cleveland first?
I think we have to go with the news out of Cleveland. That is probably the bigger story.
So the breaking news is Odell is to be released by Cleveland. Cleveland put out a statement on their own Twitter and all their social medias, thanking Odell for the time there, but saying it's best for the two parties to move on. We talked about this a little bit yesterday, and it might be a little bit of a trade-off because where you were right on the Taysom Hill versus Trevor Siemian debate. This is the one that I guess I was on the right side of the coin on as far as Odell getting moved. So hopefully people were able to trade for him. I know we had the day off when the news first came out and weren't able to talk about it too much, but it seems like a brighter future is ahead for Odell with this news. The question now begins with, where is he going to go? I guess before we start that debate, let me get into some more of the facts. Right now, the big discussion is how they are going to do it money-wise. So right now, if he were to get waived, the Cleveland Browns would have to pay the $8 million remaining on his salary if he were to clear waivers. They do not want to do that. Also, many teams are probably not going to want to pay $8 million to bring Odell in for the rest of the season because a lot of teams just don't have that salary room. I think it's like 13, maybe less than that when I looked it up, teams that can take that on. And they're not really teams that would want to add a veteran wide receiver because they're not really in contention right now. So the discussion is, how can we balance this out and restructure this contract to where from the Cleveland side, they won't have to pay as much if he clears waivers, but from the Odell Jr. side, so that he is not going to like a team that may not be his top choice. So they have to find a number there that works. And he will not play this weekend.
I think he can't play till Monday, or he can't sign with a team until Monday because that's when waivers officially go through.
Waivers go through Monday, so it will be until then that we have to just worry about that. So that begins the fun part here. And the discussion of where we think Odell is going to go.
I want to hear your first thoughts. Like, where do you think he should go?
I mean, I think a lot of people think the Saints just obviously went to school down there at LSU, has a little bit of that hometown connection. They're a team that was interested in him at the deadline. Seems like a kind of silly move that he wasn't moved at the deadline now, seeing as how the situation has worked out. But looking at the cap situation right now,
right?
New Orleans is currently 30th with $1.2 million in free cap space. Now, I think that there are ways, depending on how this works out, that they may be able to clear cap space, but they're also a team with only 2 losses. So if he were to get claimed on waivers, it's likely that he would be claimed before New Orleans. So I think of a team like New England, honestly. Like, I think New England is probably my first instinct here.
I don't know if they have cap space, though.
So New England is a little bit higher on the list at 15. They have $6.5 million in cap space. Obviously wouldn't be enough with the $8 million tag that Odell is at right now.
Right.
Part of probably why they're negotiating that down.
Mm-hmm.
But New England is also a lot lower on that waiver claim just because they have some more losses.
Right.
So I think that's the big reason that I go New England, just because of their record that they have. I don't think they have that many more losses, but they have one more loss that should bring them down a little bit more.
I think New England's 4-4, I believe. I want to say they're 4-4.
I believe they're 4-3.
Maybe.
I'm going to look at that right now. They are 4-4. Excuse me. Sorry. So that should help their cause.
Right. I mean, I don't hate that pick. I am going with a team that has clear cap space availability. In fact, highest in the league, I believe, with the Jaguars. I think just from their perspective, I think if they went out and picked up Odell, having a veteran wide receiver who can be the clear-cut number one on the team and a team that's going to be down, the team that's going to have to pass, I think it's going to be an enticing spot for him to go, even if it's just for a year. I think from the Jaguars' perspective, having an elite pass catcher out there is going to boost Trevor Lawrence's confidence. And, I mean, to be kind, Trevor Lawrence has had a rocky start, to say the minimum, into the NFL here. More interceptions and touchdowns is never what you want to see when you're halfway through the season, but it's what you're looking at when you look at Trevor Lawrence. I think so. Boosting his confidence and getting him back to playing like he did in college, where he went undefeated, just looked amazing throughout his college career. I think to help get him back to that sort of mindset, they should bring in Odell. That's why I kind of like the Jags, but I don't hate your New England pick. It's just that I feel like Odell wouldn't be the number one guy there. So I don't know if you would.
Who would be the number one guy there?
I just feel like New England doesn't normally sustain a number one wide receiver, fantasy option. I mean, Edelman has always been a good wide receiver, but he's been their number one. He's always considered a wide receiver too. So, I mean, that's just.
I think that could also go back to talent, though, too, right? When they had a clear number one, like a Randy Moss, he was awesome. It depends.
I had Tom Brady, though, so have pick and choose.
I mean, it is Randy Moss, though, too.
Right. It's Randy Moss and Tom Brady. I just think, if you're going to go somewhere, I feel like Odell might go to the Jags. that's just where I would like to see him go. Just as like, I feel like for fantasy, he'd have more value in Jacksonville with
Interesting.
Urban Myers, and who's trying to get some wins in the NFL. With Trevor Lawrence, who wants to prove himself as a good young quarterback. Where if you go to New England, you're kind of like going into a structured organization that is like Bill Belichick's way, or like get out. Like big personalities don't seem to last very long in New England. I mean, Gronk was like a distraction, but like Gronk wasn't really a distraction on the field, though, you know?
I mean, I don't know that Odell was when he was. I mean, in New York, you can make the argument for sure, but in Cleveland, I don't think he was much of a distraction on the field. I did see the video
Mm-hmm.
finally, which is awesome. Like now, I'm very much on Odell Beckham Sr.'s side.
You didn't see the video when it first came out?
I just saw it last night. The production
Okay.
value is out of this world. I don't know how he got the rights to Everybody Hurts, but that was a pretty good get for him. Yeah. We can't sing it here because we definitely did not pay for the rights to that song. But
I
he
didn't
must
sing
have.
it. Yeah. I mean, he had to.
Honestly, it was a pretty good investment because I think it brought the whole video together.
I mean, it was for those who haven't watched it, like to see why Odell was cut before people are like, oh no, he was unfairly cut, like all that other stuff. Like, he was wide open. Literally every single play that was shown, it was beautiful to watch.
Yeah, it's a weird thing now, just with that. Seeing all the TV coverage, everybody's kind of bashing Baker, and I'm like, I don't know if it's all Baker's fault. It's a weird thing that we don't necessarily have to get into on this show. We have to focus more on the fantasy implications.
I would like to know who you would blame then, because Odell's.
I don't think there is like one person.
Well, I mean, like the coach called the play, Odell got open, and then the ball was not delivered to Odell. I mean, I don't.
But there's also times where Odell was just dropping passes too, so I don't think it's all
I did see some of those where he like showed up. I don't blame him for showing up. Like, I mean, he has an injury already, like still dealing with the shoulder injury. I mean, so no matter what team he goes to, he still has the shoulder injury to deal with no matter what.
I think there could be an argument made for sure. But we have to get back to the fantasy side of things. Looking at the teams that could afford his contract if it was to be in the $8 million. I just want to go through this list real quick. We don't really need too heavily of a comment on it. The Giants are top in salary cap space, followed by the Jags, Eagles, Broncos, Panthers. Panthers would be an interesting spot for sure with the way that Robbie Anderson has struggled.
Right.
I think the Seahawks, I would never rule the Seahawks out. They always, I mean, they were kind of in that Josh Gordon thing. They've always been just active in adding wide receivers. So I wouldn't be surprised if Odell goes there. It would kind of stink for fantasy, but
yeah.
I don't think the Chargers would. The Ravens are an interesting one. The Steelers can afford him. I think that the Washington football team is also on there.
Right.
So there are some options for him for sure. And then teams that are close to it, like the Patriots, the Packers, and I think the team that has the top waiver pick of all in the Lions is an interesting one as well. I don't see these teams personally, and that's where we disagree, is I don't see teams like Jacksonville or a Detroit really wanting to make that investment in a guy for half a season that has had distraction follow him, whether it be through his fault or not. And a team that's not looking to win right now. So I don't really see the investment being made, but that also depends on what agreement they make. If you're bringing Odell in for a veteran minimum and you have no other wide receivers, then why wouldn't Detroit take the risk? Because it's not really risk. So what we're trying to say is there's a lot of unknowns here.
That is true. Odell has zero saying where he goes, correct?
Unless he clears waivers. The only say is that he would try to make his base salary more so that a team is not necessarily in the playoff hunt wouldn't invest in him because they don't really need him that much. That's the only thing he can really do to sway it until he clears waivers, and then obviously can sign wherever he wants.
Got it.
Moving on to last night's game. Crazy game. The Colts, luckily, for my sake, for I think the sake of the people who would have had to watch me dress up, I think for the sake of maybe your gambling habits, we're able to pull out this game against the Jets in a 45-30 victory. Very high scoring.
75 points.
Yeah, the over-under was 46. So you didn't really have to worry about that for too long.
No.
The Colts offense, I mean, they were just running the ball like crazy. Carson Wentz had a really good game. That's where we were kind of both wrong. We did not take the Carson Wentz trade. I think I'm willing to take that one on the chin.
He got a lot of those yards and stuff kind of late. Like they weren't running the ball in the third and fourth when the game was over. They were throwing it. So I was like, yeah.
Oh, I loved it. It was awesome.
I mean, it looks good on paper. Like if you didn't watch the game, you're like, holy cow, he killed it. But it was like, I mean, he killed it against the Jets, and he did it once the game was over. I mean,
it was fantastic. We just kept tossing it around on him. There was no mercy shown. I mean, we didn't score that much after that. But
I mean, Jonathan Taylor had a great game. Broke those big runs.
19 for 172, had a 78-yard touchdown run, 2 touchdowns, 2 catches for 28 yards.
Yep.
Monster day, 34 fantasy points. But also Nyheim Hines, 6 for 74 and a touchdown on a big, I think it was 34-yard run, and then 4 for 34 through the air for 20.8 fantasy points.
Right.
My main takeaway from this game was that Nyheim Hines is rostered in, I believe, 43% of leagues. He should be rostered in more than that. He should be rostered in, I imagine, 99.9% because that's where Jonathan Taylor is rostered. And if you have Jonathan Taylor, I would want Nyheim Hines because them being just so open to sitting Marlon Mack, I think makes it pretty clear that Nyheim Hines is the guy here. If anything were to happen to Jonathan Taylor, we saw Jonathan Taylor go down, albeit it was kind of in the 2-minute where Nyheim Hines takes over in general. So, and Nyheim Hines was the only other guy back there. Right. I think that he is the handcuff to Jonathan Taylor and should be held in a lot of leagues.
I am inclined to agree with you that Hines is the clear-cut handcuff for Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, and what was that?
I've said I like it. That wasn't my takeaway, but I like it.
What was your big takeaway from this game?
I said any quarterback can apparently throw for the Jets. Third string Josh Johnson. He had more fantasy points than Carson Wentz. He had the same amount of touchdowns, more yards, and he did it in 3 quarters. And Carson Wentz was throwing the entire game. I said, I think it's the defense. I said Jets are a defense away from winning is what I put it as a takeaway. Just because I don't know if Josh Johnson is actually this good or if that O-line is just so unbelievable.
I think you have to give credit to Michael Floor, who's the OC for the Jets, and just say they're in a good place going forward as long as they're able to retain him and keep him in the booth. That's the big argument, is that with Zach Wilson, he was on the sideline because Zach Wilson wanted him on the sideline. He's been in the booth for 2 games, and the Jets put up 30 points. You got to keep that man in the booth.
I mean, you do.
Some men just belong in the booth. Some belong on the sideline. It's just one or the other. You're like a booth guy or you're a sideline guy. And I don't think there's any wrong person to be, but typically people belong to one or the other.
Maybe. I don't know. That was my takeaway. Just a great game from the third string quarterback outperforming Carson Wentz in the head-to-head.
We don't have to make it a Carson Wentz thing.
I mean, it was a team. It was the Jets versus Colts. There are the two teams who played, the two quarterbacks who played. Carson threw it in garbage time.
It just seems like we're trying to dump on Carson Wentz.
I said Carson had a good game.
Carson doesn't like getting dumped on. That's Odell's thing.
Okay, well, I said he had a good game, and I'm just saying Josh Johnson needs some love, and I think it's like
I agree.
I might have unfairly judged the Jets. Their offense might actually be something. Could just be their defense that just lets up 38 points a game. So, sorry, Jets fans, if you're out there, the one or two people who are, sorry for that.
Fair. Elijah Moore had a big game here, 7 for 84, 2 touchdowns, 27.4 fantasy points. Is that something or nothing?
So I said he would be a risky start. He turned out to be the best start that you could have asked for. If you start him in your flex, probably no one did. I'll be honest, I didn't. Don't think anyone did, but I think it could be something depending on how these injuries are going to play out. I mean, we don't ever know how long someone's going to be sidelined for. There it is. With Corey Davis. I mean, he has the hip injury, so we don't know how long he's going to be out for. And I mean, Jameson Crowder was healthy, and Elijah Moore just came to play. So that's like great game for a nice young rookie. I loved watching it. I said, this is awesome. Wish I started him because no one else in your flex or your wide receiver 2 is going to drop 27.4 this week. So congratulations to those who started him.
Yeah. I think it was definitely a risky play. I recommended against it, and I am not sure that we're going to be able to predict who's going to have a big game for the Jets going forward. Like, I just feel like they have so many pieces that are comparable. I think Elijah Moore, also Elijah Mitchell, like very talented. I think that he's a really good player and is going to have a really good career.
Right.
Just fantasy wise right now, I'm not sure that I can trust him until we see more consistency from him or more consistency from the Jets and just focusing on getting one person the ball.
It's tough. I mean, he has 32 targets on the year. 8 of them came in last night's game, obviously. So it's tough. I think it's going to depend on who the quarterback is back there. If I'm being honest, they all look good. Like, they all look good for the Jets.
Does that include Zach Wilson?
Zach Wilson, not so much, but I think like when you go out and draft him as early as you did, I think like he automatically gets that leeway in the Jets organization of like, hey, you can suck for a couple games and like maybe a couple years, you're still our guy. Like, we're gonna build around you, get you figured out. Here you go. But I think, I mean, White, Johnson, both of these guys came to play. Like last week, White drops 400 yards on a team. This week, Johnson, if he played all 4 quarters, he would have dropped 400 yards. He had 317 in 3 quarters. So I think like these guys are comparable backups, and I think each of them has a guy they like to throw to. So I think it just depends on the quarterback situation week in and week out going forward.
And keeping LaFleur in the booth.
Yeah. You keep wherever you want. Keep wherever you want.
Wherever you score 30 points, I think you just have to put him in maybe even the same exact chair.
Maybe the same stadium too. Just like let him sit there.
If you can control that.
Right.
Although they did play at home against the Bengals and in Indy last night, so maybe that doesn't matter. But moving on to the weekend games, the rest of the weekend games, as always. Is that an advertisement?
Oh no, sorry.
Okay.
Great pretzels.
What are they?
Pretzels.
Just pretzels?
Halloween pretzels, to be exact.
What are Halloween pretzels?
I don't know. My lady went trick or treating, and pretzels. Pretzels. Wait, there's.
Did you throw a W word out there?
I do indeed. Yeah, I confuse the fans sometimes.
Okay. Keep them on their toes, I suppose.
Exactly.
It not only confusing the fans, may have confused me a little bit too.
Oh, I want to say something before we continue.
Okay.
Henry or Rondell Moore, Sammy Watkins, Marquez Callaway all have less receptions than Elijah Moore. So I think things are going to look good for this guy. Not like a set and forget starter, but I definitely think
he's going to be on our waiver talk next week.
Right. Definitely going to be on the waiver talk, and definitely someone to consider if you're in deeper leagues for sure, as someone to throw on the end of your bench, and he is set to have a good week.
Yeah, he had 6 for 67 against Cincinnati and then 7 for 84 and 2 touchdowns this week. So strong performances and trending towards, like I said, like getting that consistent value. So
Right.
I think he's definitely a waiver claim. I'm just not trusting him in my lineups just yet. Moving on to Houston at Miami. Tyrod back in the starting lineup. And
Right.
I said that just means that Cooks is going to eat. I think that he quite possibly could be one of the top wide receivers this week, especially against a Miami defense that has struggled mightily this year.
Right.
I like starting, obviously, you're starting Cooks. I have high expectations for him. I also have high expectations for Tyrod. I think that both of these quarterbacks in this game are viable streaming quarterbacks, and I think Tyrod is actually maybe my preferred out of the two.
Yeah, I don't blame you for going with Tyrod. I like Tyrod a lot. He was on my waiver wire pickup for the week. I love Tyrod. I think just the fantasy value he gets, like not only with his arm, because he's he's a good passer for sure. Definitely looked good when he was healthy. But the fact that like he'll run it like a couple times a game for 10 to 15 yards. Like he's insane when he can run. He doesn't do it too much, which I think is good. Nice balance because it helps brings Brandin Cook's value up and his value up. And Tyrod's also just because of like the passes that he gets off for more yardage. So I love it. Love it. If you are streaming quarterbacks, Tyrod is as good as anyone this week, especially playing Miami.
Yeah, he played against Jacksonville and put up 23.6. Played the first half in Cleveland and put up 16.5. So really good numbers to start the year for Tyrod Taylor. He's also only rostered in 8% of leagues. So definitely most likely out there if you are looking to stream somebody. Obviously, Gaskin is going to put up 10 plus because it's an odd week.
Right.
And kind of our weekly discussion of which Miami weapons to trust. Cody, I hope you brought enough for all of us.
I got blueberries here if you want some. This is my lunch. I had to prep during my normal lunchtime.
Oh boy. Well, I'm sorry we interfered. Yeah, but our weekly which Miami weapons to trust. I think we have this discussion
week in and week out.
Yeah, pretty consistently. Obviously, Gesicki, I would say, is the top just because of his positional value.
Right.
But after that, I'm probably leaning Waddle over Parker. I realize Parker had a better week last week, but Waddle had 6.9, but did have 11 targets in full point PPR. I think I'm leaning him. Maybe if it's half or standard, I would go back to Devontae Parker.
Yeah, I mean, Devontae Parker is dealing with, dealing with a little bang up that he had.
You got to take your time. You were eating.
I mean, I was a hiccup. It was like trying to come up.
I thought you were gonna lose the lunch for a minute. I thought you were gonna have to eat it again.
It tastes so good, you eat it twice. No, I mean Tua's a little banged up. Parker's a little banged up. So I'm not like overly confident in Parker this week. I think it's going to be a Waddle game. As far as the wide receivers go, I think it's going to be a Gaskin game. One odd week, two against Houston. So, I don't know. It's like a gut feeling on those two. I mean, obviously just Sicky. But I think Waddle is the wide receiver poised to have the better week this week.
Agreed. Before we get into this game, I just want to say they might be demolishing this house. So if this is the last you see of me, it's going to be an epic action shot before the wrecking ball just goes through me. Las Vegas at the Giants. Obviously, a lot going on with Vegas right now. The question of what wide receiver steps up in place of Henry Ruggs, who was released from the team after the unfortunate events that happened last week. There's someone over an intercom. I think they are literally. I don't know what's going to happen to me in the next few minutes.
If this house comes down, I'm gonna lose it.
I don't know what's going on. So it might be a SWAT team. They did corner me, as what it seems like it is. But yeah, like who takes over? What players step up with this new opportunity?
So I said it's going to be a run heavy day and a Waller day. I think just with all the distractions that the team's going to be facing right now, our thoughts and prayers go to the families that are affected by the Henry Ruggs ordeal. But I think the Raiders as an organization are just going to run it, do some very short passes to Waller, and just like try to grind out a game real quick, and then like get out of there as quick as possible. I don't see it being a big Renfro or Edwards game, although like the target share obviously, if we're talking about fantasy, is different now for sure. But I don't know. I don't like talking about the Raiders. This is a weird conversation to have.
Yeah. I just fantasy focused and trying to give what we can to people who are in a tricky spot, trying to figure out what's going to happen with this team.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are very high on Bryan Edwards. Mm-hmm. I'd be patient on that personally. I expect to see a little bit more from Waller as a downfield target. A lot of his receptions have been more in the short area of the field. I think that he can be a little bit more of their deep threat. And like you said, I think that they are going to use the short area of the field more. I don't necessarily think that's a big thing for Renfro. I think he already sees a lot of work, but I would imagine a guy like Kenyon Drake could get more involved. And then in this game, particularly just because they are playing the Giants, I think the rushing game will be a pretty big thing for them and a big trend. The Giants are 22nd in yards allowed on the ground, so I expect that to be a big thing. As for the Giants, I don't think I'm starting anybody besides maybe Devontae Booker.
I literally put Booker and kicker. I said the only two starters from the Giants. Nothing against the Giants, is the fact that everyone's banged up. I don't mind Evan Ingram. Like you kind of said, once you get past like the first like 3 or 4 guys, it's really just personal preference. Las Vegas is 28th against the tight end this year, so it's not it looks like a good game for them to score, or Evan Ingram to score. Sorry. I don't know. Yeah, really just running back and kicker, maybe to tight end, no wide receivers. I don't love Danny Dimes this week. Did not. I don't mind the Raiders as a matchup. Mute.
Sorry, I was trying to mute the background noise and forgot about that.
I was like, you are not talking to me at all. I said, okay, this is just it's about our relationship.
Yeah, I think I'm just trying to mute a lot of things, what's going on in the background, and just any thought of the New York Giants offense right now as far as fantasy goes. It's just something I would try to stay away from just with all the injuries going on.
Right.
It's not necessarily a place that I would want to be. Even with Booker, I feel like you're banking more on a touchdown with just how the efficiency has been, and hoping that he catches a lot of balls, which is very possible with all of the injuries going on. But I don't think you're feeling great about starting Devontae Booker even.
No, it's not like a love start, but it's like you kind of have to just because starting running back in the NFL.
So. Agreed. Going on to the Chargers at the Eagles. Yeah. Chargers only 1.5 point favorites in this game, and I think that kind of shows the fall from grace, perhaps, that the Chargers have had over the last few weeks. Obviously, that blowout loss to the Ravens and then falling to the Patriots. Is this a get-right game from the Chargers, or are they not the team that we thought they were in the beginning of the year?
Has to be a get-right game for the Chargers. You have, arguably a number one guy at each position, with Austin Eckler, Keenan Allen, or Mike Williams, depending on your take here. And Jared Cook is a very functional tight end. Justin Herbert, this is like his time to shine. Their defense is, not helping them a whole lot. So I'm kind of hoping that against Philly, kind of rights itself a little bit. But it's going to be a tough game. But I think it is a get right game for the Chargers. It kind of has to be. Like, you can't keep losing, like, it's just eventually if you keep losing, you're just not that good anymore.
Those two things do correlate.
Yeah, exactly.
That was a good observation.
Thank you.
I think a bigger thing too is it a get right game for Mike Williams, who has less than 5 fantasy points in 3 out of his last 4 games. A lot of people are relying on him, at least as a wide receiver 2, if not their wide receiver 1. I know that he wasn't drafted as a wide receiver 1, but there could be plenty of trades that were done after the massive breakout of Mike Williams. Is it like you have to start him, I would imagine. But is this kind of a bounce back week, or are we expecting more of the same from him, especially after a week where Keenan Allen kind of breaks out a little bit?
I think if you are a Mike Williams owner, you're hoping it's a breakout game for him. Philly has been tough against the pass this year. But Mike Williams is like the epitome of touchdown dependent. If you look through all the games he hasn't scored, he gets you underneath 5 points. So, he needs those touchdowns to be relevant. And I said it earlier on in the season. I said, get rid of him while you can. Mike Williams is going to drop. And lo and behold, he's dropped. Keenan Allen is their number one wide receiver on that team. Like, he is. If you ask any owner, of a team, they said, you want Keenan Allen or Mike Williams, you're going to say Keenan Allen. Like, he's just the better guy to have on your team. And he's coming into it now, like I said he would. I just don't see the need to, you should have already panicked on Mike Williams. I think that boat's already sailed.
I would panic if you were expecting him to be a top 5 wide receiver for the rest of the season. I think it's been long clear that we have different expectations
We
of
do.
Mike Williams. I
Mhm.
think that he can still be a back end wide receiver 1 to like being in that top 15. He's currently wide receiver 16, I
Right.
believe.
Way off. Way off.
So I think that he can right the ship a bit.
Mhm.
And this would be a good place to start, obviously. He should catch Slay unless Slay moves into the slot to cover Keenan Allen, which I would not expect, excuse me. But I expect him to have a decent day. You're obviously starting him and just hoping for the best. On to Philly. I think it's the running backs, obviously, that are the main conversation point there. Boston Scott had 12 rushes for 60 yards and 2 touchdowns for 18 fantasy points. Jordan Howard had 12 for 57 and 2 touchdowns as well. Almost identical numbers. He had 17.7. The difference here, Boston Scott, 45% of the snaps, and Jordan Howard with 25% of the snaps.
Right.
It's obviously a little bit shared back there. So, one, are you trusting either of these guys? And two, if you are you trusting both of them?
Chargers are more susceptible to the run to tight end than they are to the wide receiver, for sure. Way better pass defense and run defense.
They're one of the worst run defense. They might be the actual
think,
worst run defense
they're
on a
20
yards per game basis.
again yard per game.
They are. They give up 160. Houston is 31st at 148.
There you have it. First-hand stats right there. Yeah, I think it's going to be by committee. I think they both have talent. Speaking in the context of Philadelphia, I think they both have talent for Philadelphia. I think Scott and Gainwell both deserve the start. If you're going to start a Philly running back, I think you have to start them both.
So Gainwell making his way into this conversation.
Who did you think was? You think Howard's the number 2?
Howard was the number 2. Obviously Gainwell had, I believe he had 31% of the snaps.
Mm-hmm.
So he did have more than Howard, but a lot of that did come when they were up 40-46 and they sat a lot of their guys for a good chunk of the fourth quarter. We talked about that a little bit last week as far as his production and him just seeming like the third running back in that discussion.
I mean, I don't see it that way. Jordan Howard has 1 game of relevancy and he had 2 touchdowns. So, good job, Jordan Howard, for having 2 touchdowns. Congrats. That's hard to do in the NFL. But I don't want to over imagine just like because we saw 1 week. I mean, Kenneth Gainwell has 12 red zone targets on the year. He has a good chance to score, whereas Jordan Howard, he's got 7. Scott has 6. So I think like the guy who is going to be looked at back down there is Kenneth Gainwell. Kenneth Gainwell also.
Really?
Yes.
Are you worried at all about last week? He was the third. Like, I'm pretty sure if you watched the game,
watching the game,
the third guy. And that's what concerns me, because obviously we had very high expectations for Gainwell last week.
Right.
But it just seems like, number one, Sirianni just has a vendetta against us. He might be the one trying to knock down this house.
I think he is. Yeah.
And then 2, they just are so unpredictable that I'm not really trusting any of these guys too much.
Okay.
But I think if I had to trust one, it would be Boston Scott. I think Jordan Howard does get goal line carries, though, or the majority of goal line carries. And that is what's going to, I think, tick off a lot of fantasy managers.
He could. I think that Kenneth Gainwell, I think he's going to score single digits this week, but next week he's in for a good one against Denver. Just if I'm looking at the chart, it's every 3 games he does good. So I I still like it. And I still think against the Chargers, who are susceptible to the run, I think he has a good chance to be in there. He does catch passes for them. He does get a lot of red zone looks, most out of any running back, not the starter in Miles Sanders that we all thought. So I'm more optimistic about him than you are, but again, it is a committee no matter how you cut it. So like be prepared either way.
To just be disappointed. I think that's the thing here is like if one of these guys doesn't get a touchdown, then you're going to be disappointed. And everyone's pretty touchdown dependent. Would you rather start Devontae Booker or anybody here?
I want Booker.
Yeah.
He's got the job.
I do agree. Going on to Green Bay at Kansas City.
Oh yeah.
Green Bay without Aaron Rodgers.
Correct.
But looking at the team, like, does that affect any of your like you're starting Devontae Adams, you're starting Aaron Jones? Like, I don't think it affects anybody there that is going to be fantasy relevant besides Aaron Rodgers.
Right. I mean, I don't think a lot of people are starting Lazard or, Dillon, MVS.
I think AJ Dillon is somebody you could throw in as a risky flex.
I mean, he is. I guess, I don't know. I think I'd rather start a wide receiver this game, not named Devontae Adams, than start AJ Dillon just because of how backup quarterbacks have performed so far this year. I mean, they seem to be throwing for like 300 yards a game every time they come in. So I feel like those yards have to come somewhere. I mean, Mike White threw for 400. Josh Johnson threw for 303 quarters. Tyrod threw for however many game week 1. He's the backup. And then when he got injured, Mills threw for like 300 yards. So, I mean, the first week that a bench guy gets a chance, they seem to just want to chuck it. And, I mean,
we do have the Mike LaFleur, Matt LaFleur connection. Although Matt LaFleur is on the sidelines and not in the booth.
Happens. I can't control where they stand.
I think AJ Dillon could be. I guess I'm not as confident that Jordan Love is going to throw for 300 yards. But I think AJ Dillon could be a possible guy here. I could see them trying to, against Kansas City, control the run, control the clock. It's going to be risky because I don't know like how much of the passing game usage he gets,
right?
Especially like last week. Last week was, I guess, a similar situation where they tried to run the clock down. I get that they had Aaron Rodgers,
right.
But their options as far as weapons were limited, and he got 16 for 78, which is a good game, but he only got 7.8 fantasy points. So I think it's risky. I probably said that more than enough times to make that clear, but he is somebody that I would consider if it's like a really harsh week for me. Obviously not over him versus Boston Scott, or like one of those guys would be tough. I would probably do Boston Scott over him, but not by much. And I would definitely do him over any of the other running backs in Philadelphia.
You want to do a friendly wager kind of?
Sure.
I think Jordan Love has 300 yards this game.
Interesting. I will say Jordan Love does not have 300 yards this game. Cool. A question off of that. Would you stream Jordan Love?
I mean, Kansas City lets quarterbacks throw on them. So potentially, again, you have to look at your league. You have to look at who's available. But I mean, to throw to Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones is one of the best combinations you could ask for as a backup. And playing Kansas City, who is susceptible to the pass game.
Second most fantasy points allowed to opposing quarterbacks.
Exactly. City. So I would, but I'd also just take a look to see who else is there. But it'd have to be someone crazy to not stream him. If you're streaming quarterbacks, he's as good a start as any.
So going back to that Miami-Houston game, I imagine you would start Tyrod over him. I just have that suspicion.
I like Tyrod more just because seeing what Tyrod can do. and he kind of knows what he's doing, but it's not like a clear, like it's right above him. Like
What about Tua?
I like Jordan Love over Tua.
Interesting.
Well, I mean, Tua's banged up. Houston is susceptible to the pass, but I feel like a banged up Tua versus a fresh Jordan Love is not like a crazy. It's not like a banged up Tom Brady. Like Tom Brady can still pass for 250 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions for an 85% completion percentage here. And he could do that with a broken right hand. Tua's not that guy.
Is everything okay?
I have no idea. I'm gonna double check real quick.
Okay. I believe that he said, "Baby, you're okay." What's that?
What?
I nothing. Is everything okay?
I guess it's a dog just being a dog.
Okay. Dogs being dogs, as dogs will.
Meow.
Just got very dark in here. Going on to the next game, which that's it. I'm on the wrong page of my notes. I was like, didn't we talk about that yesterday? We did talk about that yesterday.
Potentially.
Actually, last thing that we have to cover in Kansas City.
Kansas City. We didn't even talk about them.
Running backs. Darrell Williams, 13 for 49, and had 17 fantasy points, mostly in part due to his receiving, 6 for 61. Just got bright in here again. But Derek Gore was the big surprise with 11 for 48 and 1 touchdown. The big thing here that I think makes me excited about Darrell Williams this week and not as excited about Derek Gore is Darrell Williams got 64% of the snaps, and Gore only had 20%. I'm feeling very good about Darrell Williams. I think that a lot of the Derek Gore production last week would concern people, but I'm not as worried about it because of that split and because Williams was productive in his own right.
Right. I'm with you. Not worried. I think Kansas City kind of likes a one back sort of thing. I never see it being a 50-50 in Kansas City. So I think Williams is the guy back there for now. When CH comes back, I definitely think CH is going to take over the reins. But I just think like they like the one guy sort of look back there to keep them, keep other teams guessing. So he's bringing personnel for certain types of plays.
I think it's like CH and Darrell Williams. Like Darrell Williams still was involved, but CH was the guy.
Exactly.
I think that this is probably a similar circumstance this week. See, this is why I don't like being in this kind of room, because these people are just literally dangling the freaking wrecking ball right in front of the windows, and it just makes it dark. Trying to intimidate me. On to Arizona it's throwing me off my game.
You are so rattled right now. I love it. Absolutely.
Yes.
Love
it. Arizona at San Francisco. A lot up in the air for Arizona. Kyler, D-Hop questionable. Haven't practiced, I don't think, all week. And AJ Green is out. I think you're taking a risk with anyone you choose to start from Arizona this week. Right. But obviously these two wide receivers in Rondale Moore and Christian Kirk are very intriguing because we know the talent of their wide receivers in Arizona, but it's always that they have too many of them. Well, now, with a few of them out, really opens the door for Rondale Moore and Christian Kirk.
Right. Obviously, I'm hoping Kyler starts this week. Always hope people start. Never want anyone to be injured. Not a malicious podcast out here.
It does help that he is on your team.
I mean, he's in a lot of teams, Kondo. I can't control the fact that this guy's rostered in 99.8% of leagues. Whoever has him, irrelevant. D-Hop, Edmonds also dealing with stuff. But yeah, Christian Kirk, Rondale Moore, San Francisco is like no joke on defense, though. Like their defense is good this year all around. I think top 10 and everything. I'm a little bit worried about this game, not gonna lie. But I definitely think Kirk and Moore have the potential to be superstars out there. And I mean, worst comes to worst, Colt McCoy, love the guy. He's on
he's my quarterback.
He is on every single one of my fantasy football teams I've ever created in my life. When I'm playing Madden, not in real life. But
I sent him a letter when I was in probably like middle school, maybe elementary, whenever he was at Texas, and he signed my photo. Sent it right to his dorm room.
That's awesome.
Still remember the number. I don't. I feel really good about Rondale Moore if Colt were to play, because Rondale Moore is that kind of short area of the field. They might even line him up in the backfield, like kind of a gadget guy that can make big plays after the catch. And I think that's going to be where they get a lot of their yards in this game, with deep threats like DeAndre Hopkins and AJ Green out. I really think Rondale Moore could be a very good receiver option this week. I think Kirk could be fine too, but I am leaning towards Rondale Moore as my choice out of the two, especially if Kyler doesn't play. If Kyler does play, it might actually flip-flop, though.
I don't know. I think Kyler, it's an ankle injury, so he's going to be less mobile. He might just look to try to get rid of the ball quicker to save himself from some of those cheap shots the D linemen love to take on quarterbacks. I think he might just look to more, double entendre there, more.
Agreed. Some say more. We've already done that. I've already done that joke. More is less.
Yeah,
but less could also be more. Ayuk had an encouraging week last week. Led the team in snaps and routes from wide receivers and running backs, I believe. It just said skill players when I looked it up. With Debo dealing with his calf injury, he went 4 for 45 on 7 targets for 10.5. Debo still dealing with that injury. Could this be a start week for Brandin Ayuk?
It could. I mean, everyone's banged up this week. I think it could. Arizona's middle of the road against the pass, so I don't hate it. Don't hate the idea of it. I might have been a week early on saying Brandin Ayuk top 15 week. Maybe it's this week. Who knows? Could do it.
Yeah, I really like starting Ayuk this week as a flex option if you have him. And obviously, if it's not a situation where you have options that are way better. But if you're in a situation where you're considering Brandin Ayuk, I would try to start him.
Right.
He does seem like he's getting a lot more of an opportunity, and I like his chances to take advantage of that. Going on to the last game of the Sunday slate, Sunday Night Football, Tennessee at the Los Angeles Rams. Rams big favorites in this one, probably in big part because Derrick Henry is out for likely the rest of the year. I don't want to say the rest of the year yet. We are to see, but he's definitely missing this game. They signed Adrian Peterson.
Right.
Him and Jeremy McNichols, a.k.a. Josh Nichols, are expected to take over in that backfield. What do we expect from this Tennessee backfield, and should you be starting anybody in it?
That was aggressive. I like Nichols more than you do, I guess. You like Pearson more, which is fine. Pearson is the bigger back. He's just a lot older, past his prime, definitely.
Well, I guess we will see.
I mean, I'll be honest. If Adrian Pearson, I would love to see Adrian Pearson run like he did for the Vikings, but that was quite a few years ago at this point. So he more than likely won't.
Have you ever heard of this little thing called the Fountain of Youth?
I've heard of it. It's actually in Tom Brady's backyard. That's how he is like 57 right now and still playing football. But that's neither there nor here. Yeah, kind of like Nichols. I think Rams aren't a scary defense. Like they're middle of the road, like quite literally a middle of the road defense. I don't think they're scaring a lot of teams. I think their offense is insane, Rams, but I don't think their defense is like, oh man, they're crazy good. So I think Josh Nichols has a chance, or Adrian Peterson has a chance, probably both, to get double digits. I'll be honest. I can see Adrian Peterson falling in the end zone. I see Nichols, running for 50 yards and catching 5 passes for 20 yards. So that gets them both, double digits weeks for you. It's going to be interesting to see how they utilize their team in the absence of the best running back in the NFL right now in Derrick Henry. But it's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, I think that's more of the situation with this team. I hate this room. Is we're going to have to wait and see.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really like playing either guy. Like I don't think I'm loving it. In the great words of Ronald McDonald, I like the Rams are kind of middle of the pack against running backs this year. I don't think it's really the defense that worries me though. I think it's just the unpredictability of like how these guys are going to get used. I would probably lean Peterson just because hopefully like he gets in the end zone. I think he has a bigger chance at that, just being the goal line back and being, I think, like the bigger guy. But I'm not feeling like awesome if I have to start either of these guys until I kind of see how the situation works itself out and how productive Adrian Peterson looks and how productive Jeremy McNichols looks when getting usage in this way.
Right. It's going to be unique to see.
Yeah. I don't know if there's anything really from the Rams side. I mean, I guess we were talking a little bit before the show, and I said, like, the only thing I guess you could kind of bring up is, like, do you want to play Van Jefferson or, like, what is
You did ask me if I wanted to start Van Jefferson before the show. I mean, potentially. Tennessee is, like, dead last, I believe, in fantasy points to wide receivers this year. With Robert Woods a little bit banged up, I could see some more passes sailing their way to Van Jefferson than Robbie Woods here. He has a foot injury, didn't participate Thursday, so potentially out, but not definite. Probably more likely going to play, just getting some extra time. I don't know. I guess I'm more confident in starting Jefferson than you might be. But it's not like a love start. Like it's not a must start for me. I hope that no one's in a position where you must start Van Jefferson.
Yeah, I mean, if Robert Woods was to miss this game, then I think he has to throw him out there. I would feel like very like obligated to do so, just with how this offense has been. And I think like a point you raised before the show, the Tennessee run defense has actually been fairly stout this year. So it seems like they're going to have to throw a little bit. I think Tennessee's going to throw it around a little bit because they have to.
And it helps when you have A.J. Brown and, Julio Jones to throw to. So
yeah, and it looks like I have seen Julio's been practicing. Obviously, I would say you're going to try to avoid starting him if you can. Like I would start Van Jeff. If Robert Woods doesn't play, I would start Van Jefferson over Julio Jones, which is gross to say.
Do you, boo-boo? Do you?
So you disagree with that?
I don't know. I mean,
I was just curious.
I mean, the Rams are potentially having everyone. If they miss Robert Woods, they miss their second wide receiver. Tennessee is going to be missing their number one guy, like on offense, period. Tannehill could have got injured Derrick Henry would have still been the guy. A.J. Brown got injured like he did. Julio could have got injured like he did. Oh, wait, they both missed a week at the same time. Derrick Henry's the guy. I think they're going to have to throw more. I really do. So I think I like Julio more if he plays. If Julio plays and Robert Woods sits, I'm starting Julio over Van Jefferson. If Robert Woods plays, I'm not starting Van Jefferson really at all confidently. Definitely not over Julio if all three wide receivers are on.
Interesting. That is it for our game coverage. We do have to talk about, as always, Friday tradition around here.
We do have traditions.
Our bold predictions, which I'm not sure that either of us have totally ironed out for the week. But
I have mine done. Like, they're done. I just don't love them. That's all.
Interesting. Mine are not done. So will I love them? I suppose we'll figure that out as we go. But first, we have to talk about last week. We did 4 each last week.
I think we did. Indeed.
Do you want to start with yours or mine?
No. Ladies first. You first, baby.
So you said that Brandin Ayuk was going to be a top 15 wide receiver.
I did indeed.
He finished as wide receiver 37.
I was so close on that one. It was so close.
You did say Nick Chubb and D'Ernest Johnson. I wrote Nick Chubb and D'Ernest Johnson 150 rushing yards. Was that each or together?
Together. Sorry. Well, my actual prediction said Browns 150 rushing yards.
Okay.
On the paper.
They had 83.
They were close.
Brady outside the top 7. He was the QB4 on the week. Lockett, top 12. He was wide receiver 5. So you got a point there. Nice little 1 for 4 week. Cody back on the board, I think, for the first time in a few weeks. So
it's been
hopefully the start of a trend.
Yeah, in a couple weeks.
Mine, I had Tommy Sweeney, top 12 tight end. He was tight end 22.
Way off.
He's a big Taylor Swift fan. Big Taylor Swift fan. Philip Lindsay, top 24 running back. He was running back 76. I'm not sure if we've ever had one that low before.
That's like the worst I think we've had on the show.
But there's certain well, I guess I'll start off and say DJ Moore did not have the highest scoring fantasy week of any player. But there's this little quarterback who has had a lot of hurtful things said to him. A lot of people tell him that he can't do it. A lot of people say, oh, he's no good. A lot of people say he's holding this team back.
Mm-hmm.
And much like I think a lot of people who were doubted, whether that be Rocky, another little engine that could.
Tom Brady was QB5.
Who?
Tom Brady was QB5.
What? I'm seeing QB4.
Josh Allen, Jimmy G, White, Justin Fields, then Tom Brady.
Well, then this possibly could be even higher. You interrupted me in the middle of my monologue, though, so I'm going to have to restart. No, I'm not going to do that. But there was this quarterback that was highly doubted, particularly
over anyway.
maybe by someone on the show, and he finished as a top 5 quarterback last week. QB4, according to Cody's metrics. I had him at QB5. I might have got them mixed up. Who knows? Obviously, Brady and Tom Brady, Justin Fields can be easily mixed up as they are both top 5 fantasy quarterbacks on the week in week 8. So I did get that prediction right. In the standings, we are currently 5. I have 5 predictions correct. You have 3.
Nice.
Moving into this week.
I just want to clarify my Justin Fields slander.
You did call it slander, though. We do agree on that front.
So Justin Fields scored 25.3 fantasy points last week.
Unreal week. Great week.
Tom scored 25.2. So it's kind of close. But the difference between Tom Brady and Justin Fields is Tom Brady
Nothing.
has scored 201.9 fantasy points. And Justin Fields has an astonishing, almost identical 69.94 fantasy points, including the 25 from last week. So he's had one good week. My slander.
Have you ever thought that Justin Fields is just a big sex guy? So that's why he wanted 69 fantasy points. That was kind of on purpose.
He could have got 69 fantasy points in 2 weeks if he was a good quarterback. Actually,
yeah, but we weren't talking about it.
I talked about him. We've been talking about him since week 1 when he started. Or didn't start, sorry. When he threw for what? Like 5 passes?
I mean, he came in for like 5 plays, I think.
Threw 5 passes. I don't know what you want from the guy.
I'm just telling you how great he was last week. And it's the start of a big trend for Justin Fields.
Oh, good. I really want you to put him on your fantasy.
I'm sure he will. He has been on my list the last 2 weeks, so was probably going to include him on this list as well. But first, let's get into your first take. Not to be confused with the show first take.
So this one is a little, I guess it's a little timid. Brandin Cooks, top 5 wide receiver this week.
Okay. I was worried about that. I don't know if this would be hedging my bet, but this is the only one that I had written, is that Brandin Cooks would be the top wide receiver on the week.
Okay, I'll put Kondo said number 1. Kondo the.
But I guess that kind of makes sense with the timid takes thing, and then my own bold predictions.
Hey, I mean, I'll be honest, rooting for you, brother. Hoping you get it right, because if you're right, I'm also right. So I mean, hey,
I feel like you should only get to choose. Like
you asked
only
me
get 2 to 6.
I said top 5. That means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's what I said. You know what? If you want to throw in 6, give me 6. Top 6 week. Give me 6.
Well, I'm not giving you 6. Okay, I was giving you 6 if you couldn't take 1.
I would rather have 6 and I would have won. So
okay. So Cody is saying that Brandin Cooks finishes in 2 to 6 territory. I am saying that Brandin Cooks is the top fantasy wide receiver on the week.
I'm gonna laugh.
I just didn't want it to be a crossover so we could both be right.
I'm gonna laugh so hard when he gets number 2 on the week. I'm gonna laugh.
I feel like one of these should be because that's not really a bold prediction on my part. Is the Jordan Love thing? So
Jordan Love, I just put that as a friendly bet. I put it just a friendly bet.
We'll leave that out of here.
Yeah.
For your next.
Oh, back to me already. Holy cow.
That was a quick one.
That was really quick. I said Jalen Hurts outside the top 8. Actually, I'll go down to 9. Top 9 QB this week.
I feel like if you're going 9, you might as well go 10.
No, because 10 is an old football number and it's just not good luck. So
It's an old football number.
Yeah, coach never played me when I wore number 10, but I saw the field when I wore 24.
So it's just more of like a traumatic number than anything.
Right, I don't know why my coach didn't play me. He said the other kid was bigger than me, but like I was faster and stronger. So I don't really know. But I don't hold grudges, I just, live and let live at this point.
Okay. Hopefully
flag football was tremendous for me.
Yeah, those were the days. I'm looking right now. I really want to do a Waller week thing, but I feel like there's really no bold prediction that can be done for Darren Waller.
Darren Waller being into a conversation in terms of like being a top 5 tight end on the week is nothing like
it would have to be like a top 5 just fantasy player. And
I'd say, he's projected for 14.7 and he's playing the Giants and they're without a wide receiver and they're going to
I'm going to go Darrell Williams, somebody that I talked up here, as a top 8 running back safe.
Wait, who?
Darrell Williams from Kansas City.
Darrell Williams.
Darrell Williams. However you want to pronounce it.
Okay. Darrell Williams.
Top 8 running back this week. I think Kansas City, a lot of people are talking about Derek Gore. And he just caught 6 passes last week in full point. I think that it's very possible, especially against a Green Bay team that, like, I think is going to have trouble staying on the field a little bit. Like we said, you still have to start Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones, but I see them being able to or having to run the ball a little bit more.
Right.
Kansas City.
Right. I like it. Are we doing 3? I think we should do 3.
Okay. We can do 3.
So I have 2 left. I'm going to say them both. I'm gonna pick it after I say it, which one I want, just because I want to hear the feedback. First one I put was Mike Williams outside top 20 at wide receiver. The second one was Henderson outside top 15 at running back this week. And they're both toss-ups for me because
I think Mike Williams outside 20 is more bold.
Mike Williams outside top 20 is more bold considering he's 16 right now, and the dude, if he scores a touchdown, is a wide receiver top 5. So that kind of sways it for me. Whereas Henderson, he hasn't scored underneath double digits except for once, and it was against Detroit. Tennessee is a good team. I'd put Tennessee in the same conversation as Indy, Arizona, maybe Seattle, right now.
You would say that Indy is in the same conversation as Arizona?
Defense-wise.
Oh.
Sorry.
We did just give up 30 points to the Jets. Still bold.
Right. I'm going to go Henderson outside top 15.
I don't know if that's bold.
I think it is.
Because it could just be a touchdown that keeps him out of the top 15. That's my take on it.
Not really, though. He's running back 11 on the year.
Yeah.
Robert Woods could potentially be out. So,
and it's a good run defense. Or decent run defense, I should say.
I wouldn't say great, though. I said Tennessee's respectable. They're much more they're more susceptible to the pass, the Rams are, than they are to the run. I think that's the problem. But they really haven't played who have they played? Chicago, Indy, Tampa Bay, which has a stout run defense, but that skews the numbers right there. Arizona, Seattle, Giants, Detroit, Houston. What one of those defense or what one of those offensive running backs actually scares you? I don't think, besides Montgomery and Taylor, I don't think there was a single guy who I'm oh yeah.
I just don't think that it's I think a touchdown can control whether he is top 15. I would love to hear in the chat while this room just keeps switching, whether it's bright or not by the minute. If they think that Darrell Henderson being outside the top 15 is bold or not. I would love to hear.
So 15 was 17.3 points last week. That was 15th. A touchdown is not getting you out of it.
Yes, it is, right? Because if he doesn't score a touchdown, say he has...
No, because D. Williams, who you just said is going to be a top 5 back, didn't score a touchdown last week and was number 16, was 17 points flat. Literally all he needed was one more run, which I think Henderson's going to get with the banged-up Robbie Woods.
Well, we got final say from the second take extra.
All right, it's bold, so I'm right. There you go.
So I will let you go with that, regardless of what I think.
Let's hear your super bold take, Kondo. Let's hear your super bold take.
My super bold take. I have a few.
Let's hear them, and I'll let you tell me which one you're gonna put down.
I have a few thoughts that go through my head.
I'm going to eat this delicious sandwich while I wait.
Of course you are. Just do it right in the microphone. Our production value on this show has been stellar. Probably the best that it's been all year. You just hear Cody munching, background noises. This house probably going to have a hole in it in the
Can you
next
hear
10
me?
seconds. And then like trucks backing up. There's no place in this house. I shouldn't be picky because, again, not technically, but possibly, depending on your definition, trespassing, possibly. But there's just so much natural light, which not good for production value here. Anyways, a lot of things that could cross my mind here being bold because his bold predictions. But I think one of the boldest things that you can do is be loyal. I think loyalty, it's hard to be loyal.
That's the best thing in the world is to be loyal.
It's the best because you have to be bold to be loyal, because there's going to be times where it's not the best to be loyal, where it might not be in your personal advantage to be loyal. Maybe somebody is in a tough spot. Maybe one of your friends is having the house that they're currently in. People are trying to knock it down. And you're like, hey, man, I know you're in a tough situation, and I will be there to fight through it with you. If we have to fight off these people so you don't get this building that you're in knocked down, I will be with you every step of the way, even though it's more work for you. And I think that that's, in essence, the relationship that I built up with Justin Fields. Just through your disbelief in him, my belief in him has only grown stronger.
I'm glad.
And that's why I think it is going to be another top 5 quarterback week for Justin Fields.
All right. So just so I can wrap my head around this.
That was a great monologue. I think you should understand beautifully. I think I painted the picture very eloquently.
So just so I get this right, Justin Fields has a total through 8 weeks or whatever we're in right now, 9 weeks, who knows, maybe 10. We count the leap year. He has 69.94.
Yeah, we talked about it. The guy likes sex. What's the problem with that?
Getting 25 points last week. So you're saying he's going to get 25 points again this week, which would double.
I'm saying he's top 5, whatever that takes.
So
I think my loyalty to him means enough that he will do what it takes for me. And just for the respect that I've shown him on the show, the loyalty I've shown on the show, and the boldness I've shown on the show.
So Joe Johnson, a third stringer, Josh Johnson, third stringer for the Jets, put up 24.48. Carson Wentz, your man crush Monday over here.
I'm not sure that I have a man crush on him. Is he the MVP? He belongs in the conversation, but
put up 24.18. So he would have to. You're either saying every quarter, no quarterback gets a 30 bottom this week, or the dude doesn't put up 25, because that's already 2 people above 24 points.
Who am I to say what's needed until we know? I just know that he's going to be a top 5 quarterback this week.
I mean, I agree with our second last comment over here. I can't pull it up, but you can. I can't do it. I can't put it up here. I want to. Right there. Now clicking it. It won't go on the screen.
Clicking what?
The comment that we have here.
What?
Oh, Second Take Extra. Shout out to Second Take Extra. Being just, yes, thank you.
Well, he did say that about your 2 picks. Did not say that about my pick versus your pick.
No, he just said it. It's fine.
That was way before.
No, he just said it.
I just want to make the record clear. If you want to lie to people, then you can lie to the people. That's not very bold of you to do.
It's on the timestamp and everything.
I did put that up when we were discussing your pick prior.
No, it doesn't make any sense.
We could argue that all day, but those are our bold predictions for week 9. Good game. Hey, second take extra. It was a battle. For a minute there, I thought we were going to blow it because our defense just said, you know what? Score all you wish. But it was hard fought. And Mike White, man. It's a shame we didn't get to see him. It is a shame. Don't want to see any of those injuries happen to anybody. It's a shame. Future of the franchise there, too. Waddle or DJ Moore. I think we talked about this yesterday, right? DJ Moore. Carlos Hyde, Darrell Williams, Javonte. Start one. I'm starting Darrell Williams. You are also doing the same things. We are still at the spot for now. Next week we will not be, because if you've seen my frustration with just not being in a controlled like studio environment throughout the show, it has pushed me over the edge.
You need that. You need to have everything like perfect for you. It's kind of.
I mean, I kind of do that. Like I do production, so I feel like that's something that I should at least somewhat get right.
Right. I just love it. You're so great.
Thank you. That was by far the nicest thing you've ever said to me on the show. Chuba, Scott, or Gordon?
I'm gonna guess that's Flash Gordon or Melvin Gordon. Melvin Gordon.
Melvin Gordon.
Might be Melvin.
Flash Gordon is Josh Gordon.
Right. That's what I was kind of hoping for, but you know.
If CMC isn't to play, which I don't think he's expected to, he's been limited all week.
He's been limited, but at least he's been practicing. I think he's gonna play. I think he's gonna play. I'm probably gonna go Gordon. I want to go Gordon. I might go Gordon.
I'm probably going Chuba. We know that you are not a big Chuba guy, but if CMC is out, I'm going Chuba. If not, I'm probably going to go. Who did the Broncos play?
Broncos play the Cowboys. Eagles play the Chargers, and the Panthers play the Patriots. So, if CMC doesn't play, I gotta go. Oh, it's so tough. I don't know. I think CMC is gonna play, so like Chuba's kind of out in my mind, but I like the Panthers running back over these other two guys.
Yeah, I agree. I would probably go. Who would you go if CMC plays?
If CMC plays, go. Go Melvin Gordon. Go Melvin Gordon.
I think I'm going Gordon as well. Just more trustworthy.
Right.
Is Parker and Beasley playing this week? Or Parker and Beasley playing this week?
Devontae Parker, I think, is playing. So
he's not. He suffered a setback. The news came out today while we were doing the show. So he isn't expected to play. That boosts up Waddle's value a little bit. I'm still starting DJ Moore over. That's actually a good question, because what if Sam Darnold doesn't play? Are you starting Waddle over DJ Moore if Darnold is out?
I don't know if I am. No.
I would still lean no. Or I would still lean DJ Moore too, just because sometimes I don't even do it based on like the practical stuff. It's just like if I sat DJ Moore over Waddle and DJ Moore went off, I would be more pissed at myself than if I sat Jalen Waddle and he went off over DJ Moore. Does that make sense?
No, I'd be way more pissed if Jalen Waddle sat for me. And I was like, and I had a conscious like discussion with myself of like, do I start Moore or do I start Waddle? And Waddle dropped a 30 bomb this week. I'm like, I missed his 130 bomb of the year. I thought about starting him. Like, if I had that conversation with myself, I'd be more pissed because I think DJ Moore has the potential.
Picked up Taysom Hill. You know what? I'm going to hold on to him. I have him in one league, and I'm probably going to hold on. Trevor Siemian is expected to be the starter this week. I don't know if that continues or not. I guess we will see. I like Taysom Hill if he ever does get the job. I just think he's just going to be a valuable fantasy asset if he does become the starter there. I get that that's an if currently, but that's a chance I'm willing to take as far as seeing how that works out. We talked about this in the opening of the show. My pick was the Patriots. Cody's was the Jaguars. But there are a lot of options that could be interesting. Mitchell, Javonte, Josh Nichols, and Herbert and Tony start one. Mitchell.
Yeah, Deebo Samuel's out. I don't hate it. Nicholson is a close.
Is Deebo actually out?
No, I said if he's out.
Okay.
If he's out, I like Mitchell over Nicholson. If not, Nicholson is my 1A to the Mitchell 1B. But I'm not going to hate you for starting Mitchell's over Nicholson. I think that's it's a discussion. I mean,
so you're high on McNichols.
I am higher on Nichols than you are for sure. But I'm also higher just off the fact that they might have to throw way more this game than actually run it. And I think that he is going to get 5 or 6 just looks out the backfield this game, which is 5 or 6 easy points just off of catches, plus whatever he can manifest after, plus whatever he runs for, plus if he falls into the end zone, which they seem to be letting the running back or wide receivers running back get into the end zone. So yeah, I am more bold on him for sure. And I think Mitchell was a little banged up. I think he is banged up currently. I think Javonte being a backup is always risky. And Herbert just being on the Bears organization is tough. And Tony, good luck with that. He's hot one week, he's cold the next week.
He hasn't been able to stay healthy.
Right. So,
that's I would go Mitchell, Herbert, and then Tony would be my order there. And I would probably go. I just don't trust. And it's not because of McNichols. Maybe that I'm going with him last, but I just don't know what to expect.
Fair.
Damian Harris, McNichols, Devontae Smith, Josh Jacobs, Zach Moss. Start one.
I'm going Nichols again.
Over Damian Harris and Josh Jacobs.
Why
didn't you throw him in your bold predictions?
Who? Nichols?
Yeah.
Josh Jacobs and Damian Harris are both good running backs, and they're both performing well. And I do think it's going to be a run-heavy game for the Raiders. I just don't I don't know. I don't know. I have a feeling about it for some reason, and my feeling is to say Nichols. If we look at
I don't think you've also just want to make clear. I don't think you called him by his actual name once.
No, I haven't. I'm not going to. So get over yourself. Get your pride out your face here.
I don't think it's mine. I think it would.
No, definitely your pride. Damian Harris has had a good week or has had good weeks. Start off double digits, 3 games under double digits, 3 games in double digits. I think he's going to be back to single digits again. This is why I'm kind of a little hesitant on him. Josh Jacobs has kind of had a revival. He's been able to stay healthy, so I guess that's kind of the revival. But he hasn't really popped yet. And I think we're undervaluing. I think you're overvaluing Adrian Pearson coming to the team right away. And I think we're undervaluing the fact, yes, Derrick Henry's a monster, but maybe the O-line is a little good. Did we ever consider that? Their O-line might be able to move people, might be able to create a hole. Maybe Nichols might be able to run a little bit. We haven't even really thought about that. Or I guess I have. Other people might not have when they're just so high on Adrian Pearson. But that's just kind of why I'm there. Derrick Henry was the number 1 back till the injury. Like, no hesitation, number one back since the injury or before the injury. I think, like, we need to see it. I want to see a game before I am like, oh, I want to see 2 games of him sucking before I say I'm wrong. I want 2 games to see before someone says I was right, too, just so we're clear. But I want to see.
I think that's the thing where I'm like, I want to see 2 games before I trust starting anybody in Tennessee. Like, I want to see how the split is before I trust a guy there. And I think that's why I'm leaning. I've seen Damien Harris be the lead guy. I've seen him be successful, and I've seen New England want to give him carries. So I'm leaning Damien Harris here as my choice. And then Jacobs, I would say.
So you're going Harris.
Harris is my first choice.
You're going Harris first, and then Josh Jacobs.
And then I think there's a pretty big fall off for me.
Do you think it's a big fall off? Okay. I mean, Rams have been giving over 100 yards on the ground every game. And I'm just not believing in the fact that Nichols does nothing, I guess.
I don't think he does. I don't know if he does nothing. I just don't
feel
know.
like that's how the conversation kind of is Josh Nichols. Josh Nichols has more targets than anyone besides AJ Brown on the team. Anyone besides AJ Brown, he has more targets than.
Okay.
That was with Derrick Henry being Derrick Henry. So the passing value has always been there for him. Granted, Julio's been injured, but he still has tied with Julio right now. Who is a fantastic wide receiver, if not one of the best. So I think the value that comes with him is just immense. And I think Tennessee is more likely to use some crazy plays to give him the ball than I think New England is to commit to one back, and that I think Josh Jacobs is to beat him. I mean,
interesting.
I mean, Damien Harris is in New England with Bill Belichick. They've ran.
But we've seen them commit to him. It's
right.
not
but we also.
That's what I'm worried about, and I think I'm fine with you having full confidence in Jeremy McNichols. If you have a conviction in him that strongly, then sure. I'm just saying I've seen Damien Harris be the lead back, and I've seen Damien Harris be very productive, particularly of recent. I mean, he's gotten the last 3 weeks, he's had 14 or more fantasy points, and that's in half-point PPR.
Right.
Sorry for the mix-up. I'm just researching on the spot here. But that I just have seen it, and that's for me, that's less risk and McNichols might pay off. It's just a riskier decision. So I'm going to try to avoid that amount of risk and go with the safer option in Damien Harris, who I don't think is a floor option. I don't think I think he has a safer floor, but he also put up over 20 points 2 weeks ago. I think he also gives a ceiling as well.
So Damien Harris. Yeah, whatever his name is here. He has 2 total weeks of having 50% or more, 53 to be exact, percent of the snaps. Every other week, he is 40, 30, 60, 30, 40, 40. So it's not.
Well, I mean, one of the weeks that you just said was 60.
Right, he had 2 53s, 160, but people were missing. So I don't I mean, Stevenson's wasn't playing that game.
But that was by choice.
Maybe his choice, maybe not his choice. They just had to give the touches somewhere. Josh Jacobs, he missed 2 weeks, so the snap count is a little skewed for him. But it's I don't know. It's
if you have the gut feeling, I'm not telling you to not feel it. I
just don't think it's as clear cut as you're kind of making it seem of oh, Josh Jacobs and Damien Harris are these 2 gods above Josh
I
Nichols.
think they
I
are.
firmly
And that's
believe.
my opinion. Like I
Yeah.
said,
Right.
I'm very willing to say I think they are. And if you have that strong of a conviction in McNichols, I'm not going to tell you not to start him because that's a good amount of confidence to have. We have to keep moving, though.
You want to do a friendly bet? Another one above Jordan Love?
Sure.
I said Nichols over Harris and Jacobs.
Okay, I will take that for sure. So we have a lot to look forward to on Monday. Starting my sleeper and Sweeney. I have a new. I like to sleep around. I think is the thing here. I have a lot of.
This is a kid show, Condo. You need to calm it down.
No.
No.
You got to get your head out of the gutter because I'm talking about my tight end sleepers. I do like to sleep around with my tight ends.
That's even worse.
You're
gonna get canceled.
Tommy Sweeney is the thing of the past for me. Alberto is my tight end sleeper for this week. I think that he is going to take over for Noah Fant. He is really kind of the lead tight end there and the only receiving option at tight end they have there right now. So I like him as a sleeper for this week. Bull take Jarvis is a top 15 wide receiver this week. That's actually a very good one. We should add the second take extra, see if he can beat us. Top 20 running back and top 7 quarterback for Carr. And 4 outdid us. Sweeney, top 5 tight end. The gray area, dynasty, half-point PPR. About to send Deontay and Dylan to the owner of Mike Evans and a 2023 first. Thoughts? Rebuilding and trying to get 10,000 firsts. I mean, if that's your goal, then yeah. I like Mike Evans because I think you can flip him for more firsts. If if the goal is 10,000 firsts, I'm not taking the number 10,000 lightly. I'm trying to capitalize on that. So I think you can flip Mike Evans, but I also think I feel like Deontay's dynasty value should be.
It's so high. He's so young.
More, yeah. I think you should be able to trade just Deontay for that. With how young he is right now and how many targets he's eating up over there, it's nuts.
I think you should save Dylan, flip him for a first.
Interesting. Yeah, so we both think that you could get a little bit more.
I would love to do a dynasty league. Invite me to yours. Invite me to someone. Someone in the comments just invite me to one.
Jets back. I've got three. That's what I said. Colts
exactly.
Defense.
I said it, baby. What I say. Backups this year, throwing for 300 yards.
Darrell Williams, Waddle, DJ Moore. I'm starting Darrell Williams. That's my bold take.
I'll take Williams.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll take it.
That is it. I did see a couple old or ones back a little bit, food ones. We'll go quick because we're already at an hour and 43 minutes. Wendy's or McDonald's. I'm like
Mickey D's, baby. Mickey D's.
I'm not a big McDonald's guy. Just not. It's never been my thing.
Wendy's so expensive though.
You got to get the biggie bags. KFC, Popeyes. It's KFC. KFC's one of my top ones.
Love that chicken from Popeyes, baby.
Really, Popeyes chicken is just so salt. I mean, I think you're kind of nitpicking there. It's probably
so I have a McDonald's, a KFC, a Wendy's, a Popeyes, a Burger King, a Taco Bell, a Chipotle, a Jersey Mike's, a Subway, all within a 2-minute bicycling from my house. So I try.
Do you have a bicycle?
I do. Little red one. Look kind of cool on it. Hair flows in the wind. All the kids wave. I think they're throwing rocks at me, but I just think it's waving. So
they missed so far. It sounds like.
Yeah.
So that's just why you say Popeyes.
I like Popeyes. KFC is really good too. Their sandwiches are immaculate. But I think if you're going for chicken and stuff, I don't know
KFC
why.
KFC has the flexibility. That's what I like. They have a lot of things on the menu.
KFC has more of a variety, but if you know what you want, you're going to Popeyes and you're
darn.
And every time I go to Popeyes, the people are just so nice. Every time. Like I went to KFC. I got yelled at, not by like someone who was working, but just by like some dude ordering. He was ordering a gallon of like grease or whatever. They started yelling at me like it's my fault that they're taking a long time. I just looked at him.
Yeah, I mean, people, they probably weren't prepared for that order of grease.
I said, you know what? You're right. It's my bad. I said, I purposely went and drank all their grease this morning just so they'd have to make you a fresh batch. And, everyone will go to Popeyes. Everyone's so happy when you go to Popeyes. You're just like, oh, yeah, fried food. Love it.
There you go. Yeah. That is it for our show today. Good luck in all of your fantasy matchups this weekend. Yeah. We hope we can pull out some big dubs. We will see y'all on Monday to break down Monday Night Football.
Oh, yeah.
The only game we didn't break down yet today, to cash in on some of these bets, whether that be Jeremy McNichols or Josh Nichols. I actually forgot his real name, which is really bad. I feel kind of bad for him.
That's weird.
Yeah, kind of bad about that.
I would too.
So I'm sorry. It is Jeremy McNichols. Jeremy McNichols versus Damian Harris and Josh Jacobs, or Jordan Love for 300 yards. So we'll see how we can cash in on those bets. As always, if you like the show, subscribe. We are on Twitch at Your Wildest Fantasy and on YouTube at Your Wildest Fantasy Football Show. We're also, I think, going to start an Instagram soon with clips and stuff like that. The name of it, even though it is not set up yet, is WYF for Your Wildest Fantasy Football. So if you guys want to go support there, please feel free to. We will have more content on there fairly soon. That is it. Cody, any last words?
Love it.
That sounded a little threatening. Any last words for this week?
Love it.
No, I said any last words, which made it
but like,
a little dark.
Like in real life, you're like 3'4", so like no real threat.
Well, that's just not true. Well, somebody here is the taller of the two, apparently by the screen.